There's a lot to be said, so I'll just hit a few of the highlights of the answer. One has to do with the fact that because the world is changing so quickly, we don't have a childhood that prepares us. And so the idea that you're not ready to fledge, like imagine you're a bird standing at the edge of a nest and somehow you really don't have the program on board about how to fly, it sort of keeps you, maybe I'll just stay, right? Um, Second thing is we have lost rites of passage, right? If you live with the idea that at some point you're going to take a vision quest, you're going to have to go out and hunt the so and so and bring it back, whatever it is, even though that's an arbitrary moment at one level, you know it's coming and you know when it's past and you know when you take on the rights and responsibilities of an adult. For us, it's very vague, right? Graduation from high school doesn't really mean anything, right? So we don't have those. But
And sorry, but we also have lost at the same time external measures by which, especially for men, I think, will find their meaning. So the hero's journey is disappearing. War is terrible, but war and other things like that do provide a sense of meaning and camaraderie, and after which you have a more a more pinpointed sense of, okay, what am I capable of doing, and what might I do further in the world now that I have escaped death. And especially if you've never come close to death, it's much harder to get a sense of what it is that you're doing in the
yeah,
world.
it does create context. But I would
Yeah.
say um, the awkward elephant in the particular room here is that the old world, and not even so long ago, even 100 years ago, the old world was organized around a relationship between the sexes that I don't think we could make an argument that it was inherently fair in any regard, right? Burdens were distributed in an arbitrary way. However,
Well,
it,
not arbitrary, but also not fair.
well, in a somewhat arbitrary way. It's not
Yeah.
there is a logic to it. It's not
Mhm.
like somebody rolled the dice on each of these things, but there's nothing that says that the balance of costs will have fallen equally on the sexes as viewed by the sexes with respect to whatever objectives they may have. But the point is this: in the past, sex was scarce, right? Why is sex scarce? Because the cost of having sex for a female is extremely high. The production of an offspring with somebody who won't contribute to raising the child is very high compared to producing a child with somebody who will raise the child, who will partner. And so, what that meant was that women were on their guard and it made sex rare, which made sex an extremely potent motivator for men, right? In order to earn the right to a sexual relationship with a fertile female, men had to achieve, right? Because men were in competition with each other. And so I'm not saying that's a good world, but I am saying that's a world that makes sense. It's a world in which men strive for reasons that are relatively easy to understand. And in the world we have now, sex has been turned into something different. The stakes have been lowered dramatically. The expectation, people who don't have sex quickly in dating are understood to be prudes and they pay a social cost. And so all of that has lowered the bar to sex. And then we have all of this sort of artificial stuff that scratches the same itch, with porn for every conceivable preference and kink. And
So, well, just like as we argue in the book, just like junk food actually makes you feel like crap if you're in tune enough with your body to recognize that you're going to be less capable of performing to your best abilities after a lifetime of eating it. Junk sex, junk media, we have the junkification of a lot of things that have the capacity to bring us meaning and to give us something to strive for. But because sex feels good, of course it does. It's amazing. Um, that doesn't mean that more right now is inherently better for us.
right. And I mean, at some level, what we're losing, the the market has delivered us the inverse lesson that we should be getting. Delayed gratification is often the key to satisfaction in life across every domain, right? The I want to scratch that itch right now thing it results in a very thin kind of satisfaction. And so, among the many answers to your question, one is that the system of incentives that used to cause people to strive and therefore to mature because it was the key to something has been upended and nothing coherent has been put in its place.